Hi everyone, Adamo here, Wild and Wise Women, Wild and Wise Sisterhood. And I am supremely and profoundly honored to talk to you about the ride that I've just been on with 10 extraordinary women, inspiring women. And that journey is a book collaborative that we initiated way back in November. Well, not way back, but back in November of 2018, when I was inspired to stand for women finding their voices and expressing them through a book. So today I want to talk about how that book program, because it's really a program. We didn't just go out and gather in 10 women and write a book. This is a book series, Wild and Wise Women book series. And the reason it's a series is because I want to offer this extraordinary journey to every woman who resonates with it. So let me talk for a minute about most books. Most books are informative. They provide us with information, and sometimes the information entertains us, and that's awesome. I love reading for entertainment. Sometimes our books inspire us, and we actually take the information that we have and we do something differently, or we do something bigger, or we do something better. Our school systems are all based on informative learning. Now, informative learning is great. I mean, it's what kind of gets us from point A to point B and helps us to understand more about what's going on. But this book collaborative, this book journey, and what it offers to both the authors and the people who read it, it's entirely different. So let me tell you why. Because there are a lot of, and thank goodness, a lot of women leaders who are offering the people that are in their community the opportunity to express themselves through a book. But the wild and wise women around the world, this series is something different. We're not just informative. We're not simply informative. We're not simply a collection of stories that are entertaining or inspiring. Oh, nay, nay. What we are is we are transformative. And let me tell you the difference there. Instead of being simply stories that are out there that you read and you're inspired by, and maybe you're changed a little by, you will be transformed by these stories. And I know this because the process of writing that book, each of our authors went through a transformation of their own. They didn't simply become more knowledgeable about who they were, although that did happen. They didn't become changed, a bigger, better version of themselves. What each of those 10 authors became is an inspired version of themselves. So they're not simply doing things differently or better or more expanded way. They are different people. They have forgotten some of the things that they thought they were, some of the things that have stopped them in the past. Instead, through the transformation of writing this book, of being one of the 10 inspiring authors in this book, these authors experienced the transformation to know who they truly are. They went from their world of potential into a world of possibilities. Ooh, big difference there. So our informative system, informative books, they talk about and they lead us to potential. Oh my gosh, though, transformation, that leads us into possibilities, because possibilities are what we have never been able to see before that moment. And as we are transformed and we truly become available to know not just our potential, but to know our possibilities, which are oftentimes something that we can't see because we've been blinded. We have blind spots that keep us from knowing our possibilities. So as these women went through the process of telling their stories and transforming themselves, they became awake and aware to possibilities in their life that previously hadn't been there. Whoa, talk about exciting. And as I said, I am extraordinarily honored and profoundly grateful to be a part of this, to be a part of this transformation for these 10 women. And we're going to be going out soon and looking for, I think we're going to do 15 women this next time in our Wild and Wise series, Wild and Wise Women Around the World. I'll be looking for 15 women who don't just want to write a book. I'm looking for women who want to transform, who desire to transform, who desire to be who they are, who have a calling that is so big, they don't really know how to wrap their hands around it, wrap their arms around it. And yet there's a path for them. And this book collaborative, truly a path. So when you ask yourself a question, because a lot of times that's where our authors started with, from the question of, does anybody really care what I have to say? Does anybody really give a rat's behind what I have to say? Do I care about what I have to say? Great questions. And let's start with, do you care about what you have to say? I know that whatever you decide to do, whether you're called to be a part of the next book collaborative or not, what you have to say is important. You have lived your life on purpose, regardless of your level of consciousness about your purpose. You have lived and will continue to live a life of purpose. So I invite you to wake up. Wake up even more than you have been. And listen to who you are. You've had your experiences for a reason. And if nothing else, that reason has been to be an inspiration to yourself. And if you dare, to be an inspiration to others. To be a part of something that is not simply informative, to be a part of something that is absolutely transformative. So what are some of the things that come up when you think about daring to share who you are, daring to share your transformation? Well, fear. That's the first thing. Fear. Like, oh my God, I'm afraid to get out there. I'm going to be writing about myself. It's going to be very vulnerable. How vulnerable can I be? Should I talk about this? And what about that? And people are going to think this, and people are going to think that. Wow. That kind of dialogue in our heads happens all the time. And what it serves to stir up, the energy that it stirs up, the emotion, the energy in motion, is oftentimes fear. It brings that fear up from that human place of simply going from the infinite into this, into this world of duality. As humans, we have fear. And it's not necessarily about eradicating the fear. It's okay. It's kind of like breathing. As humans, we need air to survive. We need to breathe. And we don't think about it much. It's like, okay, I got to breathe, so I'm going to breathe. And it's only when we're cut off from the possibility of breathing that it's an issue. But basically, we need air to breathe. And we don't say, hey, no, I need to change that. We just breathe. Well, it's the same way with fear. It's part of who we are. It's at some point was divinely designed to keep us from being eaten by, whatever, or, falling off of something that we could clearly see if we fall off of it, it's not going to be good. So fear is awesome. It truly is. So it's a matter of accepting that's part of us. And just like with our breathing, we can come to the point of acceptance. That's who we are. We breathe. And we have fear. And that's where we get to also dive into the divine act of courage. And we've all, no matter who we are, no matter how introverted or quiet or shy or anything else that we are, we have all shown exceptional courage by simply staying alive. And those of us who are inspired to transform and to be out in the world, more courage. So Fear not. Because even though we have that fear, we also have the courage to do what we're here to do. Acts of courage, they're extraordinary. They're amazing. They're what really bind us together as humans. So let's not push it away. Let's say, yeah, getting my voice, finding my voice and speaking it and having it out in the world. There's going to be some times when I'm going to freak the out. And I really am. I'm going to freak out. And it's okay. Because it's not the fear that will kill us. If we don't listen to the fear when it's time to, for example, like get out of the car's way, we cease to exist. So let's listen to the fear. Let's see if there's anything there. And if there isn't anything there, then we can choose to act courageously. And if there is something there, maybe we still act courageously. In any case, if that comes up for you, it's part of the process. No big deal. You got this. We got this. And that's the thing about working in this sacred circle of a collaborative, is that we have each other to support each other in our transformation and what we're doing. So there might be fear that comes up. And that feeling of vulnerability, that's a little different than fear. Feeling of vulnerability is really, how do I describe it as different from fear? There's really a power. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we may identify that as fear. Really, what it is power. And some of us can be very skittish about stepping into our power, especially through vulnerability. And as you find your voice and you tell your story and you share it with others, you will be vulnerable. And you will access a power such that you have never known. Acts of courage, being willing to walk in a vulnerable way to power. Those kinds of journeys, they are transformative. They're not simply informative. Will you find things out about yourself as you act with courage and you walk in vulnerability and access your power? Absolutely. You're going to learn a lot about yourself. But even more exciting is you are going to transform who you are. And as you do this, and as you write your story, and as they come together in this book, wow, the book is no longer informative only. It's also transformative. One of the greatest examples, I think, and there's lots of examples out there of transformative books, and I'll speak to any religious writings. You know, the religious writings come from a place of vulnerability and power and acts of courage. And regardless of the faith that we're talking about, because the people who shared their voices, whether they are saying that they're acting as a channel for spirit, acting as a channel for their God, it doesn't matter. It's still the person, the human, that was willing to show up and do that. And because they did, those books shifted paradigms. They shifted from being informative to transformative. And in the Wild and Wise Book Collaborative, in this program, this new signature program, that is exactly what we're doing. Because we as women are coming together and willing to find our voices, to share from our heart, to take acts of courage, to be vulnerable, to access our power and share our inspiration, our feminine fire. It's magical. It's miraculous. It's extraordinary. So I invite you today, all you wild and wise beings, to know that, yes, I care about what you have to say. And I know that the world does too. And if you are willing, when you are willing, whether it's through this book collaborative or some other way, to find your voice, to speak your inspiration, to allow your passion to lead you through the paradox of vulnerability into power and share that with the world, regardless of how you do that, through a book, through speaking, through your actions, you transform yourself and the world. The world needs your voice, and we absolutely do care about what you have to say. And if you have any questions, comments, what ifs, how abouts, curiosities, let me know, because I'm interested in what you have to say. So my wild and wise women, my wild and wise sisters, you are so loved, and I can't wait to hear from you. Have an extraordinary life.